All right, New Orleans, welcome to the Jack Clegg Show. This is the Tuesday night edition. You're listening to WGSO 990 AM. You can also watch us on the video podcast on YouTube and X. A scheduling detail. Next Tuesday night, we are going to be on from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, a 2-hour show. I don't know what we're going to do for 2 hours, but we will be here for 2 hours. The reason for that is Thursday and Friday, the parades are going to be running right in front of the studio. So I don't think they're going to have shows here. So this Thursday we'll have a show, but the following week, Tuesday, we'll have 2 hours, 6 to 8. We won't have a show on Thursday. I think that's January 6th, I believe. No, the 6th is Tuesday. The 8th and 9th are the days where they're going to have parades here, and they don't want to have anyone in the studio and so forth. Anyhow, tonight's show, we have extraordinary topics to discuss. And one of the main themes tonight is I want to thank President Biden and the thousands of progressives who have been emboldened by his lack of principles. Now, I'm sure he's got some principles somewhere, but telling the truth about things and the full truth about things, politicians don't do that, but they should. And I'm not saying Biden is a worse liar than other politicians. I'm not going to compare him to other people, but I know that's happened. And because of his inability to tell the truth when it matters, his followers and those that are working on his campaign and those that are helping out have been emboldened in state after state after state. Progressives who have captured the Democratic Party. They are the ones who are now in control. And we're going to examine using Louisiana as an example of a place that's going to progress and do well without progressive, socialist, anti-American themes. And we're going to talk about that tonight. It's a really important thing to consider, and that is comparing Louisiana with other states and what they're doing. Okay, in particular, and I'm quite proud of our our Republican governor, Governor Landry, and the transition team for the things they have focused on first and what they want to do first. So a few days ago, Governor Landry's transition team recommended that we do away with the Louisiana state income tax. Woohoo! That's pretty good. We already pay a sales tax. We already pay property tax. We already pay federal taxes. But Landry and his team have decided, no, we will prosper better when people are not taxed out the yin-yang, whatever you want to call it. But people will do better when they have their money and can spend it in the way they want to. Their families will do better, and so forth. So let's examine, okay, Louisiana is doing that, and I'm so proud, and Louisianians should all be very proud of that. And I haven't heard any organized speaking out against eliminating our state income tax. But I did some research, and I'm looking now at what the rest of the country is doing. And this is on the eve of the 2024 presidential election. All this is going on. So everybody's, and so one of the points I want to talk about tonight is Vermont. Their legislators, are proposing state taxes on capital gains of those with a net worth exceeding $10 million. So if you're rich, they want to impose a wealth tax. Additionally, surcharges on other high income earners. Okay, what what is this, and how do you describe it? Okay, a growing number of progressives, and that's in Vermont and other states, who follow Chief Elizabeth Warren and millionaire socialist Bernie Sanders, want to tax something. It is absolutely anti-American. It is absolutely we're trying to make diversity, equity, and inclusion important. This is anti-equity. This is anti making people have an ownership interest without hurting them. Okay? What they're doing is they want to tax unrealized capital gains. Okay. What is an unrealized capital gain? Don't turn off the radio. Don't turn off TV. Don't turn off YouTube. It's very simple. I'll break it down for you. Okay, let's say you buy stock, any stock in anything you want to buy. Okay, you spend $1,000 on it, and you hold the stock, and you see, oh my gosh, it's going up. And after a year, the $1,000 worth of stock is worth $1,500. After a second year, it's worth $2,000. After the third year, that $1,000 is now stock. The stock you hold in that company is worth $3,000. Here's what they want to do in Vermont. If you don't sell the stock, you have something called unrealized gain, meaning the stock was worth $1,000 when you purchased it, and today it's worth $3,000, but you haven't sold it. Therefore, you don't have a realized gain. If you sell it, you get profit, right? The additional $1,000 you paid and the $2,000 that it grew, you have $3,000 of realized gain. That realized capital gains can be taxed by the federal government. What Vermont wants to do is, if you don't sell it, if you just own it, and its value has increased to $3,000, they want to tax you on the unrealized gain. The next year, the stock may drop. Something may happen. You won't see any of that profit, but you pay tax on it. That's what Vermont wants to do. Now, if we have anybody who identifies themselves as a progressive in Louisiana that anybody starts to listen to, or the media starts to quote them as making a change for Louisiana, we all need to listen very carefully to what they say. All right. So that's what Vermont is doing. Okay. More shocking, but true. And we're going to take a break in about a minute. We're going to talk about what's happening in the state of Iowa. Okay. What are they doing in the state of Iowa? Well, there is a Republican plan to attempt to make Iowa students more patriotic. The blowback they are getting from progressives in Iowa and liberals in Iowa is amazing. It's as if somebody said, we want to change the sex of those kids. But what they want to do is have them say the Pledge of Allegiance. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about that and a few of the other things that are going on in other states. We have a caller online. We'll get to him after the break. All right, New Orleans. Welcome back to the second segment of the Jack Clegg Show, the Tuesday night edition. And before we get to our caller, I wanted to mention that, okay, we had mentioned what was going on in Vermont, which is, I couldn't imagine living there. That would just, it's against every American thought of how you can succeed, but now the government wants to penalize you for succeeding. This is so wrong in every sense. It is so wrong, and it is so unlike Louisiana. So, like Joe Rogan, who left California to move to Texas, I suspect people are going to leave Vermont, and maybe we can welcome them here. But I don't think any Louisianans are going to move to Vermont anytime soon. And it's not the weather. It's the ability to be free from a government that is imposing its will on you. That's just wrong. Anyhow, okay, so what's going on in New York? Kathy Hochul is at it again. The unelected governor of New York. Here's what she wants to do. Okay, we know that New York is having a horrible time with its illegal immigrants. And they're getting 300 in New York City, according to Mayor Adams, they're getting $352 per family in government assistance right now. Why? Till when? It doesn't look like it's going to end at all. It's amazing what they're spending this money on. And thankfully, Governor Adams from Texas has sent them there so we could see what's going on. The people in New York don't like it, yet their politicians are trying to bail them out. So here's Kathy Hochul's plan. She wants to hire over 4,000 of these illegals to work for state agencies, according to the Department of Civil Service. They broke the news. They didn't have her approval, so she's angry at somebody over in civil service. These would be entry-level jobs in fields like food service, equipment repair, facilities management. Facilities management, what does that sound like? Janitorial, maybe? Maybe. And office assistants. Okay? They'd be hired despite their language deficiencies and inexperience in these kind of jobs. But once hired, they're going to be paid to learn. Taxpayer money for these folks. This is just another world. No one would think that this is what a country is supposed to do. Welcoming people means, helping them get jobs and so forth. It doesn't mean hiring them and paying them to learn their way. But this is what the progressives are doing in New York. So, and according to Adams, he says the total amount that he anticipates the state spending in the next 3 years is $10.6 billion. No wonder people are leaving New York. No wonder. I mean, it just seems crazy. Okay, let's get to one of our callers, Matthew. He's always got something interesting to say. Matthew, how are you this evening?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
So, yeah, I'm listening to this thing about the unrealized income, and there have been Democrats who have floated this idea. I think even Joe Biden floated it in as a way of increasing the tax take of the government.
Sure.
And it's never gotten very far, but I would imagine that in Vermont, it'll probably pass all the way to Phil Scott's desk, and Phil Scott will pass it, will sign into law without even the need for them to override his veto.
It just seems so un-American. It just seems so un-American to me to tax unrealized gain. It's like, we don't want you investing. We're going to take your profit before you take it.
The 17th Amendment is un-American. It should have been struck down by the Supreme Court, but it wasn't, because that was the progressive era.
Well, who knows? Who knows what may happen? Yes.
For right now.
Yes.
But Then you had something about, was it Iowa? They're going to make kids say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Well, the Republicans have in their response to some of the learning that in many curriculums in the state, and Iowa of all places, students were required to attend classes that taught CRT. So many of the conservatives in Iowa said, okay, you're going to do that, that's fine. We are going to require that social studies classes do two things. One, teach the history of our national anthem. Where did it come from? Why we have a national anthem. And number two, we're going to have people stand every morning and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Sound familiar?
Okay.
Sound like what happened when you were a young man?
No, I grew up in Japan. We did not recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, because in Japan that would have been illegal.
Well, and that makes sense. When I was growing up, back in my day, that was what we did. First thing in the morning, we did that, and around third period, we put our heads under our desk, hoping that our grammar school would not be evaporated by a nuclear bomb. So we have both of those things going on. Let me ask my producer, who's much younger, Kobe. How old are you?
I'm 24.
Did you say the Pledge of Allegiance in grammar school? Okay, well, that's pretty good. Okay.
They do that in Jefferson Parish too.
Okay, some places do, some places don't. Anyway, so that a long story to get to. That is what Iowa is doing, and the progressives in Iowa are saying that requiring students to say the Pledge of Allegiance violates their First Amendment right and is unconstitutional. And they're going to do what they can to challenge that in the Iowa Supreme Court and then on to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it probably will be found unconstitutional.
I don't think this Supreme Court's going to do that. I don't think so.
Well, I don't know, because the Supreme Court has done some strange things, such as, the perfectly fine for Joe Biden to continue tearing down border wall. So you can never tell. You've got Amy Coney Barrett in there, and if she's not a progressive, she's sympathetic to progressive thinking. So this is according to Robert Barnes. Now,
I'm not sure about that. But then, anyway, go ahead.
The interesting thing about forcing patriotism and it should come naturally if you have a country that you feel is great, that you can see is great, that is offering you a great future. The reason I bring this up is the podcast of the Lotus Eaters yesterday. They had about half-hour video about why they won't fight, and it's basically why the UK military is having a great degree of difficulty recruiting young Englishmen to join the Royal Army, the Royal Navy, the Royal Marines, or
just
the Royal Air Force.
Just like we in America are having a tough time. Exactly. It is very difficult.
And part of this is, imagine that you're a young man in Dubuque, Iowa, let's say, and you've just graduated high school, but all throughout high school you've been told you're horrible because of your skin color. You're just inherently racist and evil. You look around to see what your future holds, and it's basically you can get a job at the factory that we moved overseas in about an hour and a half, or you can get a job in the service industry.
Matthew, I'm going to have to cut you off. We're going to take a break. Can you stay and stand by until the
I
next
will do that.
Okay. And we got just a few seconds left. I know a good friend of mine is a military recruiter. If you're listening, JR, give me a call, because this topic, I think you're right on top of it. Anyway, we'll be back in a few seconds.
local host discussing a variety of topics. In an era when the daily newspaper is being discontinued and our competitors are out-of-state media conglomerates, we ask you, our listeners, to support local programming on a local station. To advertise or sponsor one of our great shows, contact me at jeff@wgso.com or call 504-669-6076.
Do you have ghosts in your house? Well, I do. Hi, it's Golden River, local spirit guide, psychic medium, and celebrity ghost hunter. I run the Haunted Museum and Baby Spirit Shop in Nashville. Come to a ghost hunt piece. You sharpen your communication skills with the other side of the free. I'll teach you how to, as we learn, we go ghost hunting, join the Victorian seance, and explore the beyond. Did you know that you can even plan an entire haunted night at the museum for your private party 7 days, 7 nights?
All right, New Orleans. Welcome back to the third segment. We were talking to Matthew, who raised a point, an excellent point, about both in Britain and in the United States, we are having a difficult time recruiting soldiers, airmen, naval personnel.
Soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. Right.
Right.
And the point is you got a country that is treating a good segment of the population like crap, and I think a lot of the black people are starting to wake up like, wait a minute, we're being treated like crap too, maybe for a bit longer, and we should go fight for what? And everybody's like, why are we going to go fight these foreign wars and be sent all over the world to fight for what?
Well, let me, something occurred to me, and I was thinking about the first part of the show. We talked about what these other states are doing, particularly Vermont, and what Louisiana is doing, and so forth. And
Yeah.
I wrote down this: revenue versus patriotism. Okay, if I was running a state, okay, and I wanted to raise revenue, I would do everything I could to raise the level of patriotism in my state. I would
For
do
your
everything for my state. Or if it was a national revenue I was trying to raise, I would do everything to raise patriotism for my country. Because the people who are going to reach into their pocket and pay their taxes and not try to not pay their taxes, I think having a healthy dose of patriotism helps raising revenue. Am I right about that?
You are right. There's another point about that. In order for those people who have the revenue, they have to have something that's generally called a job. And in order to have a job, there have to be people patriotic enough to invest for the long term in your state and in your country.
Yes.
If the billionaire class could give a rip less about the country, they're not going to invest there unless you make it really attractive.
Well,
they'll never develop patriotism, because the moment things start to get tough, they start looking for places, with the $1 an hour labor.
And let's expand it to its ultimate conclusion. If you want your country to succeed, you better knock off the globalism. Because the only reason globalism is attractive is if you think we're going to be totalitarian through the entire planet. Well, where is patriotism there? It doesn't exist. If you are believing that we're all one together and we're all going to be the same, you don't have nationalism, you don't have patriotism, you don't have pride in country. You have mandated globalism, which I think that when you do the logical steps from one to another, these progressives are seeking that here in the United States.
Oh yeah, they're seeking absolute power. They are totalitarians. They think we are authoritarian, though, because we want to limit their sex lives.
or maybe limit the medical attenuation of their sex lives. Anyway, thanks for the conversation. Good points raised, and I was hoping that I'd get a caller that was an expert in why we're having such a difficult time recruiting for our services, and we are. Matthew, thanks for calling. We have another caller, our favorite whistleblowing friend. Go ahead. Yeah, there you go.
Play ball and play to win. Good morning, brother and sister pro-life, whistleblowing parents, patriots, pet owners, cowboys, and cowgirls. The war on America the Beautiful and Israel the Precious continues. Iranian, Hamas, Houthi, and Hezbollah, Mexican, Chicom, cartel, drug dealing, domestic, and foreign treasonous Nazi terrorists are encouraging and funding murder, abortion of all kinds, and a worldwide war terrorism worldwide. Additionally, our real president, Donald J. Trump, is still under constant terrorist lawfare attack. That's right. Additionally, our real president, Donald J. Trump, is under constant terrorist lawfare attack. Prepare yourselves now. Stock up, wake up, stand up, rise up, vote up, and wise up, America. Re-elect Donald Trump.
Thank you. Okay. All right. All right. So, and I think we touched on some really fundamental issues that all of us need to, if you get a chance, talk to young people. Maybe they don't care about globalism. Maybe they don't even know. But it would be a good idea. It would be a very good idea to include them in decision making. Not necessarily they have a veto over what a parent says or whatever, but it would be a good idea to ask them what they think about those things, because you'll learn what gaps have not been filled in by their teachers. And otherwise, we don't go to class, we don't videotape classes, which I'm not sure is such a bad idea to do that. But we need to touch them and find out what they're talking about in their classes, particularly in the issue of raising revenue, patriotism, and these issues. Okay, we have Rusty from Jefferson. Rusty, how are you this evening?
It seems like every time your show comes on, something happened. As soon as they say sandwich fell all over the floor, and I felt like I better get it up now. I won't have that interest to pick it up later when the insects come.
It's a 30-second rule. You get 30 seconds, and then you can still eat it without any poisons. And that's the rule.
Oh, no, I didn't want to eat it. I just wanted to get it off the carpet. Listen, I have to agree with Matthew about Amy Barrett. And after the vote, what was it, this past week?
Yeah.
Was it this past week?
Right.
I think she opened up the borders. She voted along with the left wing. And I like, I don't know if you're going to a break right now. I'm not sure. I didn't look at the clock good enough. But right now, they got all these governors sending National Guard to the border.
Sure.
And we don't know what's going to happen here. But I'm hoping from the conversation, we had this conversation at the end of your last show, that they hold fast. Because if they don't hold fast, our country is doomed. I was listening to someone earlier, and they said it's probably closer to 20 million that are here, and they can bring their families in later on. We're talking about potentially hundreds of millions of people come in this country unless we hold firm to that border. And to be frank with you, Jack, I'm not sure if it's not too late to be.
Well, when you look at when you dissect the parts, okay, we know the big theme is we've got a lot of illegal aliens. Okay, we've got a lot of them.
Yeah.
We don't know. So you
Right.
dissect it. Question number one, and I know the answer, is the most damning issue, and that is, where are they? Where are they? We don't know. We don't know. In I can remember when Trump separated the parents from the children. Okay, in oh, the kids are in cages, and they do photographs of kids in cages. Well, that was during the Obama administration. So they will do everything they can to try to be, what am I going to say? They want to say that somehow people illegally entering the country are deserving of more than people who legally enter the country.
Right.
It is a world upside down. Now we know this, so when we approach the questions, and look, and we're going to hit a break in a minute. I want you to stay on because one of the topics I was going to talk about is exactly. I got an email from a buddy of mine who's a Democrat, and he is so frustrated with the Democratic Party, particularly the federal Democratic Party. He sent me a copy of the email, which is showing exactly what the Democratic position is going to be in November. Well, from now until November. And I'm going to read that, and I want your comments on it. You got about eight seconds left. You're listening to the Jack Clegg Show. This is the Thursday night or Tuesday night edition. We'll be back in a few seconds.
Show-stopping signage will give your business the visibility it needs. Search Speed is a trusted resource for sign design, production, and installation. From trade show displays, banners and posters, to directional signs, window decals, wall graphics, and more, Search Speed's sign capabilities can help your business get noticed. Call us today at 504-586-9812. Search Speed, we do.
Hi, I'm Hopper, an active Christian who loves Louisiana. One of my goals is to bring Louisiana's education from 50th to number 1.
And I'm Dave. I'm not afraid of government bureaucrats. I feel Washington. Our rights and freedoms come to mind.
This is Liberty or Lockdown. Please join us on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com.
Kate Delaney from America Tonight. The show kicks on at midnight, and I'm loving the overwhelming support in New Orleans. What a group of fantastic listeners here on WGSO 990 AM. Join me every morning to catch up on what I call the buzz in your backyard and mine. You'll hear some of the most interesting people on the planet from the world of business, politics, sports, and, well, just intriguing people with a story to tell. If you're around, give us a call. Don't worry, I'll spit out the number plenty of times on the air. Let's agree to meet at midnight right here on WGSO 990 AM in New Orleans.
Hey, it's Kevin Carr with your personal sneak preview invitation to join me on Sunday evening from 8 to 9 for Fat Guys at the Movies. Each week I give you my take on the newest movies and movie news, but in a fun way. Not like those stuffy movie review snobs who take themselves way too seriously. I tell you the new movies rock or not. Yes, it's fun for all ages with Fat Guys at the Movies. I'll see you Sunday evening at 8 on GSO 990 AM.
The fastest growing conservative talk show in the South is now on 5 days a week on WGSO 990. That's right. American Ground Radio has moved from Saturdays to Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. American Ground Radio is based out of Louisiana and is grounded in the ideas that founded our country. American Ground Radio is a show for everyone who believes there is greatness within each of us. So tune in Monday through Friday starting at 8 p.m. on the leading voice of the Crescent City, WGSO 990 AM. And text. Text means. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever. Hi. Okay. Text and complain that they're on the phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTexts.rex.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad.
All right, New Orleans. Welcome back to the fourth and final segment of the Jack Clegg Show, the Tuesday night edition. And I'm with one of our callers, Rusty, and we were talking about, I just got a buddy of mine had sent me, it's about a 6-page email. And it is essentially the Democratic platform. It comes from the Biden-Harris campaign directly to him. And essentially they want money. Okay, that's what. But he sent it to me so I can see what they're talking about. Okay, achievement number 1. Student loan debt cancellation changes lives. Okay, that's the best they got. That we are going to forgive the debt and make you taxpayers who work pay for that debt so we can buy some votes of young people. That's number 1. And they talk about that, and they talk about some person Eric, who got his debt relieved, and now he's a happy guy. Great. Okay. Life is hard. Life requires choices. You take out a loan, you gotta pay it back. That's it. I say a whisper like Joe Biden. You gotta pay it back. Okay. The second thing really gets me. And this shows the nature of the people involved in the Biden-Harris campaign. You don't lie. You don't lie. And let me read. I've got to read this. It's going to take a second. Okay. Commemorating the 51st anniversary of Roe versus Wade. 51 years ago this week, the Supreme Court recognized a woman's constitutional right to an abortion in Roe versus Wade. A right to make deeply personal decisions with her doctor, free from the interference of politicians. Now, I remember when Roe versus Wade came out in 72. From that day forward, there was 2 groups, the pro-life people and the pro-choice people. And they all made their arguments, okay? Some of them got violent. Some of them, did crazy stuff. But there has always been 2 of those positions, okay, by Americans, good Americans. They believe in one thing, the others believe in the other. Okay. Let me explain why they say Roe versus Wade is gone. But because of Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans' extreme anti-abortion agenda, these rights have been ripped away. Really? I'll tell you that that's a lie. I remember, as you do and everybody else, that there has been a right to life movement in this country. Every year they march to Washington, hundreds of thousands of them, and they go to Senate, state legislators and congressmen, and they do everything they can to protect young life. Okay? So claiming that it's Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans is just not true. It's not historically true. Now, it is true that Trump put in conservative justices who are strict constructionists. They read what's in the Constitution. If it's in there, they protect it. If it's not in there, they don't pretend it exists. The third is, here's what they're expanding internet access to every American. Really? We've got a border that's exploding. We've got inflation. We've got wars everywhere. And they want to expand internet access to every American. Okay, finally, the fourth point, you can buy American-made, union-printed varsity merchandise that says Biden-Harris. Whether you need to stay cozy at a football game, are looking for a new sticker for your laptop, or are decorating your space, this American-made, union-printed collection has something for everyone. I want to see, too bad football season is over. Get it? It's over. But I want to see, maybe in September, maybe in October, people wearing Biden-Harris gear to football games. After seeing what happened at most colleges this year, with the chance that we're not so favorable to Joe Biden. Anyhow, your thoughts?
Well, back there in Obama's term, he wanted to give away, or he did give away, Obama phones, they called them. And everybody was getting a phone. And to be frank with you, Jack, I didn't really care because a phone only cost a few dollars.
Sure.
And I just figured if it helps them get a job, if it helps them to get a place to live, if it helps them to deal with their situations emotionally and mentally, I'm not going to worry about those things.
Well, you're going to invest your taxpayer dollars in that, and you're not going to complain. You can say, okay, this
I'm not going
this
to
could help.
complain about things like that. But the thing you said earlier about New York, they want to give them jobs. The governor up there, you said,
Sure.
wants to give them jobs they could give our own homeless,
Sure.
our own impoverished people.
Right.
That, to me, makes my blood boil.
Yeah.
And they know there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are homeless. And they still want these borders to be open when they haven't worked out the problems of the people that live here. I think some of these issues can be debated about what you give to people and what you don't. But you have to start with your own people. You can't be letting millions of people come in and study a new welfare roll.
Right.
You can debate those other things. I mean, there's food stamps. I don't know. What do you feel about, Jack? What do you feel about food stamps?
I think it's good for farmers. And and when you actually and this is true. Okay, we have a big segment of our population that are farmers and in the farming and the food business. Okay, I want them working as hard as they can, making as much food as they can. If we have to give some of it away overseas, which is what we do, and we have people here in America that can't afford the food, apparently, I don't have any problem with subsidizing food. I think it works. It's a
that's
good
the
deal.
kind of thing I'm talking about. We could fight over how much and
Sure.
if we do it at all.
Yeah.
But you can't have all these people. As far as I'm concerned, our country is being attacked.
Yes.
At the border, I saw one show yesterday that said in December alone, there was 125 affirmed terrorists, people on the terrorist.
Sure. Yeah.
And that means if it's 125 in 1 month, it could be thousands, perhaps at least up to 1,000 or more each year. And those people are going to try to do us in, but in one fashion or another, they're going to try to do us in. And I guess I feel like we're fiddling. We're just watching these people come in because there's not enough nerve and courage or loyalty to this country.
Right.
And I guess I just feel like, for me, Jack, my focus, even though there are other issues, just like you bring up, my focus is securing our border, forgetting about the world till we take care of our own house, and then if we start doing that, I'm willing to debate and struggle or fight against socialism and globalism, but I don't want our country given away to people who are unfriendly to us, but not only unfriendly, there's just too many of them so that we can't take care of our own. So
that is not an irrational position at all. It's a common sense. That's what you do with your family. Okay.
Exactly.
If you had an extra room, okay, we'll let these poor people say that. But after a while, you got your own children to take care of. They need their rooms. They need their things, and that's what we need to do. We've got 5 seconds left. Thanks for calling. Appreciate it. Folks, remember, next Tuesday night, 2 hours. Thursday night, we got our regular show. Talk to y'all later.
Safe and active while still feeling independent. A place that was close to all of us and everything she needed. Locally owned and operated in the heart of Gonzales, I found Francois Ben's